I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on Spotlight, we're exploring Suzanne Chima's groundbreaking book. It is called The Parents, Breaking Generational Cycles. Suzanne shares her transformative journey from enduring years of abuse and trauma to discovering and breaking the generational chains that bound her family. Her story is one of resilience, inner strength, and the pursuit of personal freedom and healing. We're delighted to have this very talented author join us here today on Spotlight. We thank our team at Inks and Bindings for helping us put her in the spotlight today. And we ask viewers like you to support writers like her by subscribing to our channel and by purchasing her remarkable book. The links are below this interview. Suzanne, great to see you here today on Spotlight.
You too. Thank you, Logan.
Let's start out by asking you, what was the turning point for you to start confronting and breaking these generational cycles?
I think by the time I was 45, I had realized that my life was just at the very bottom. I don't think I could have gotten any lower.
Mhm.
And I just finally got tired of it, and I just got tired of it and I just put a stop to everything. I made some decisions, um, as far as what I wanted for my future, what I didn't want anymore. And I just started getting to work on more or less rewiring my brain,
What
you
were
know.
the issues at 45 where you felt that things couldn't get any worse, that you were at rock bottom?
Well, I felt like I was repeating the same patterns, you know, as my parents had.
Mhm.
My parents um, went through, both parents divorces and bad relationships and just a lot of emotional, mental issues, stuff like that. And I noticed that I was becoming, I don't want to say this the wrong way or make anybody feel bad, but I was becoming my mother.
Hmm.
And I was doing everything that she did unknowingly. I had no idea. And it just one day it just clicked and I said, "Oh my God, this is not where I want to go or where I want to be." So,
Yeah, I think a lot of us are handed scripts by our parents. Our brains are imprinted by their behaviors or attitudes or actions when we're growing up. And then we start acting on these things without any thought because that's all we know, that's all we saw, that's what we were told to believe. So stepping aside, stepping back and becoming your own person and realizing, hey, this is not for me is really a aha moment, don't you think?
oh yeah, definitely. There's no doubt about it. I mean, I believe we run on an unconscious program probably by the time we're seven, from the time we're 7 years old, maybe up till 35. And then at that point, you're either going to continue on that path or you're going to recognize that you've been unconscious all this time and doing what everybody else told you to do or, present it to you. And, like I said, for me, I just, that's it. I can't do this anymore.
What were the changes you made, and what are the changes readers of your book can make to change their lives, to own it, to have ownership, not to just simply play out what our folks did or our grandparents did, and so forth and so on?
Yeah, I think first is you have to recognize, where you are and what you want, what you've been doing and all that. Like for me, I was, like I said, ground zero, bottom. That's it. At that point, I decided I've always journaled my whole life, and I've always wanted to write a book, but I never thought I had enough material. So at 45, I had plenty of material, So I got back into journaling full time every day, meditation first thing in the morning every day. I changed my eating habits. I kind of went a little cleaner with that. Um, and I just started recognizing, I tried to stay conscious as much as possible when I was doing things that weren't so nice, maybe being judgmental or just maybe doing the same things that I did before, stay in relationships, going for the same personality type that I was attracted to. That never worked out. So what I did basically was made a conscious decision to do the complete opposite of everything I ever did,
Hmm.
everything. So, I had to stay conscious as much as possible. And I made that, it was my program. I just reprogrammed my brain basically. It took some time, and I'm still working on it. I don't think you ever really 100% finish doing that. It's
Yeah.
just, it's a daily practice.
Yeah, I think we're all works in progress. I mean, that's what it comes
Absolutely.
down to. And once you think you've got it all figured out, you've got a rude awakening. You don't. So,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure. So the book is called The Parents Breaking Generational Cycles. Tell the folks at home what they'll find within the pages of your book. What's it about?
Well, I mean, I started off pretty much, talking about my childhood and the abuse, how things happened moving up. And then get into, as I got a little bit older, how I was still doing the same things. I was still being abused, but in different ways in relationships. I talk about how I had to make a decision to disconnect from certain people, whether family members or friends, anyone who was toxic, anyone I didn't feel good around. Um, I know it's not anyone's job to make you feel good, but if I didn't feel good around that person, no matter who it was, I just ended all those relationships and pretty much was alone for a long time, which was fine. Um, yeah, I mean, I basically just talk about, really from my childhood up until roughly around 45, 50 years old.
What I find is that people who were abused accept abuse as normal. And that's a
Correct. Yes.
problem. I mean, if your parents were really hard on you, whether they were heavy-handed by hitting you or verbally abusive, you get used to that. That's what life is like, you know. Mom,
Yeah.
dad smack me around every now and then. They call me stupid, dumb, ugly, whatever it is. So if
Hmm.
you are smacked around by a significant other or called stupid, dumb, or ugly by them, it's not so strange because that's how you were raised, right?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. You're definitely conditioned to believe that that's just how people are.
That's
That's how
life.
I am. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
and you go
exactly.
along
If
with
your
it.
parents were people who screamed to resolve conflicts in the house, you don't think screaming to resolve conflicts in the house is unusual. So
Correct. Yeah.
taking that step back, like you said, is so important for sure. Do you have siblings? Do they have a similar experience? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I have two younger brothers. They have their own experiences. I mean, obviously I have memories of what they went through, but I really believe everybody takes in abuse in a different way
Mhm,
and they adjust, according to, I guess, what makes sense to them. I don't talk to my siblings.
mhm.
Those relationships ended years ago. Much for what I said, I can't, I just decided I cannot have toxic people in my life.
Right. If it's a
And
negative, bad relationship, end it, no matter how close they're supposed to be with you. If they're not, they're not. And you do have
yeah,
to, and you do have to draw a line in the sand somewhere and say, enough is enough.
right, right.
What's your best advice for folks at home who find themselves in the same situation you were in when you turned 45 and you said, hey, I don't like how I'm living anymore?
Well, I mean, I guess recognizing it is the number one thing because had I not been tired of all this and not woken up, to the understanding that it does not have to be this way,
Mhm,
I probably would have continued all the patterns. But because I did realize that I just didn't want to live like this anymore, I started doing a lot of research um, on the mind and consciousness and spirituality. And I literally every single day just studied and studied and studied. And it wasn't hard because it was so interesting and I was so motivated to change. So, I think you have to, get out there and find good resources and good information and just because here's the thing, if I spent 45 years being one way, there's no way I'm going to change overnight.
right.
So you have to put the work in every day. And like I said, it doesn't feel like work to me because it's exciting to be
Hmm,
somebody different, to be the
exactly.
person that I want to be and not the person I was told I had to be,
Right.
so
Yeah, we
I
don't have
mean
to be
that's
prisoners to the scripts that were written for us by our parents. I mean, that's what it comes
exactly.
down to. Tell me how important spirituality was for you in what I would call recovery.
Incredibly important. Incredibly important. I was brought up Catholic,
Hmm.
so the first 7 years with Catholic school and beatings and all that stuff, and a lot of information that made absolutely no sense to me. I think even in first grade, would Jesus do that? Would Jesus do that? All
Hmm.
that stuff. And I just couldn't connect with it. It made no sense. It just made it, there was nothing logic about any of it that they were teaching. For me, the spirituality is just, it's a close connection, a deep connection with God, or source, whatever, however you want to
Hmm.
look at it. But it's a personal connection. So it's really important to me. I mean, I don't go a day without making that connection. Sometimes I do three, 4 times a day, depending on how I feel,
Yeah. Well, I think
Yeah.
that's great. I think that's healthy. I think it's empowering. I too was a Catholic school kid, and I used to
Yeah.
sit in class and hear about the teachings of Jesus, which I think are beautiful.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, then why are these nuns so mean? Why do
Right.
they act like they hate the kids? Why
Why
do
are they
they
beating
pull my
us?
ear,
Yes.
pull my hair, hit me?
Yep.
So and all for only for the sin of being a child, so
Right. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
so but somebody did say to me one time is that you shouldn't let people who did not practice their faith properly tarnish your faith. And that was a pretty profound because I did. My
Yeah.
experience were Irish Christian brothers who punched you, priests that threw you out of your chairs, and nuns who were the worst.
Oh, yeah.
And with that said, a couple of great priests, maybe one nice nun,
Yeah, yeah, one or two good ones, but for the most
right.
part,
But
I think I was locked in a closet, thrown in a trash can, nose and chin to the wall with the hands behind the
yeah,
back the first 7 years.
and
So
people can't believe it. Like you tell them this stuff and they didn't go to Catholic school and they're like, come on, it wasn't,
now I know.
like, no, they punched you in the face if they thought you had a smirk on
Absolutely.
your face. It's really
Absolutely.
true. It's really real. Your book is called The Parents. Are your parents still with you? Have you been able to make amends with them? Tell us about that.
Yeah, my parents are still around. I have not uh made amends. I reached out with no response.
Hmm.
Um, we had a big, I think, I don't know if you remember, but in one part of my book in 2019, I decided to take a DNA test.
Hmm.
Don't know why, it just was kind of a joke. But I kind of always knew something wasn't right
Hmm.
my whole life. So I took the DNA test and I found out that my father wasn't my real father. So when I reached out to my mother about it, she wanted nothing to do with that conversation.
Yeah.
When I reached out to my father about it, he just said, "Oh, well, you're not my daughter. I'm not your father. Have a good life." So that's the kind of people, So I just said,
Yeah.
"Okay, we're good.
Right.
At least I
Right.
know,
So you cut your losses and
I cut
you're
everybody out."
yeah. Well, I think it's wise. I do think it's healthy. I
Yeah.
think you do have to draw a line in the sand. And one of, I think Maya Angelou says it, when people show you who they are, believe them.
Yep.
And I think that's very, very important. The name of the
Yeah.
book is The Parents, Breaking Generational Cycles. It's written by Suzanne Chima. It is a powerful story. She shares her transformative journey from enduring years of abuse and trauma to discovering how to break the generational chains that bound her family. It's an empowering book. We all have trauma. We all had some level of abuse, most likely, in our lives. This book will help you figure out your own story, your own life, and start scripting it yourself instead of having the scripts handed down to you. Suzanne, thanks so much for joining us here today on Spotlight.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I appreciate your time. And to the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time. Until next time on Spotlight.